I think the 4 words that describe doing a PhD the most, and as well as becoming a professor and going on and doing research for the rest of your life. The 4 words that describe the most, you're in your head. And as you are going about this, it's often how you have to think about things is that you're in your head. But, but, and I've talked about this a lot, that loneliness is an industrial hazard in our profession. And this loneliness makes it very, very difficult to, um, when you're in your head, to not go into great depths of negativity, to really be destructive in how you're feeling and what you're going through. And when you're in your head, um, you're thinking about things, and at least for me, and I would imagine, so let's just say on average, half the population is going to go negative, half the population is going to go positive. I tend to go on the negative side. I actually think it's far more than that. I don't think it's actually easy to go positive when you're in your head. And so we do things like ruminate. We do things like fixate on different aspects. Like ruminate, I will start having these sort of negative thoughts where I start doing, particularly with social comparison. I'll see somebody doing something better. And often the somebody that's doing something better is they've got this sort of desire in their belly that makes them want to, whatever personality trait that they have, right? And whatever psychological condition that they have, they want to show to other people that they're doing better, and they do it sort of subtly often. So for me, I don't like doing well. So I know some people might disagree, but I try not to show that too much because it wasn't part of the culture that I was growing up in. Um, for various reasons. I was also the runt of the family. I was the youngest. So I'm always taught to not, be boisterous or any number of these different things. It's taken me a long time to develop this skill set and how to actually do that appropriately. But long story short is when somebody else is doing that and you see it, and, I start to ruminate, and I start, well, how come I'm not there? What's my problem? There's no difference between them and me. And yet I'm not in that situation. Like, I go through this sort of death spiral right away of negativity, and where I just feel horrible about myself. So I've learned, there's different triggers that will experience certain people. um, Also, like on social media, I sort of block different people or different sort of things the best if I can to prevent that from happening, so that I'm always having this just feeling better about myself. And I prevent myself what I call a death spiral. So what is that? That's when you kind of go down the route for a while. It usually takes me a day or two to reset to be like normal again, but then I feel horrible. um, it does take a while. And when you're doing that, when you're in your head of, doing the work that you need to do, and it's about, so that the challenge with this is that it's what's called endogenous, a big fancy word that basically means that you are in control of your own destiny. So what you end up doing is, because it's you and yourself, you kind of go through these dark moments of negotiating in your head of how to navigate this. But it's you having this conversation in your head of navigating this. Now, not everybody has this person in your head, or conversation in your head. I realize that is unique um, to the majority, but I don't think everybody has it. I think it's maybe a third or something that doesn't have this voice in their head. Um, but if you're experiencing this, you go through these very, very kind of challenging moments often where you're in your head in a very negative way, where you think people are better than you think you're not as good as what you should be. Um, it's often, people talk about these things like imposter syndrome, all these kind of things. I mean, I don't think like imposter syndrome is actually a bad thing. Like that was taught to me is that you should be like deferring, right? Like I grew up in a culture like that. I'm Canadian. I grew up in the far north. You're sort of supposed to defer to status and all those kind of things. I think that is this somewhat of a Western conception, particularly American conception of that you should be boastering all the time and, having this sort of sense of security and all that kind of stuff. Um, so, being in your head, you have to manage that to the best of your ability. And I think it's if you are, whether you're in a profession like this where you're alone or that you're alone, living alone, which there's lots of people today that are living alone, particularly as you get older, you're in your 60s and 70s. You may choose to live alone. You have to learn to manage that to the best of your ability and manage this in your head sort of loneliness that you experience. It's far more accentuated in our profession because we're rated against each other constantly. Everybody is comparing who's the best, all this. It's so stupid, but this is the profession. You're always being rated. Imagine, I don't know if you've ever been on, years ago, they used to have these magazines and airplanes that would have, top 100 doctors or whatever, right? But it's in your face all the time where they're rating in those magazines. They pay for those pages. Um, but in the profession that I'm in, you often don't, and you're rated by everybody else. But um, implicitly, you can, in the sense that there are tricks and stuff to win those metrics. Positioning, all these kind of things to quote unquote win the metrics. Where it's another term you might have heard is teach the test. So all of these things is to go and to say that if you can control being in your head, if you can really try not to go down those routes. And so how do you do that, right? First of all, try to figure out how to be in a position to find good people around you that don't make you feel like that. And that is very difficult. I completely understand. It's very, very difficult to find people that are like that, but you need to sort of find people. And maybe for a decade, it may be that you're in that moment, but you kind of try to keep looking for good people. Now, the other thing that you also have to sort of think about is figure out the ways that allow you to get out of your head. So I'm alone a lot in my life, alone a ton. That's just my life. And so I do things like this where I am, instead of deactivated, I'm talking to you, and hopefully you will pay attention to this, or I'm walking, or trying to get out of those moments and giving that poor soul in my head a little bit of a rest, so I can not be in my head as much and try to figure out ways, in healthy ways, whatever it is. Our profession, very easy to get into alcoholism and drug use. Very easy to get into that. Just like if you're a Wall Street trader, very easy to get into that type of behavior. But if you manage it and you look for outlets that are healthy, which will feel like when you're doing it, here's the challenging part that is a struggle for everybody. These outlets that are healthy are going to feel like a waste of time. Just like in Wall Street trading, you're going to want to be glued to that computer. But it's healthy to take breaks. It's healthy to take a step back. It's healthy to go and wander. All of those things are extraordinarily healthy to do. And as long as you keep coming back to it, that's the gift, right? So take whatever you need to go and recuperate and keep coming back to it. And as you do that, good things happen to your mind, your soul, and you manage this being in your head just a little bit. It's not perfect, as you will start to discover. It is a management process where you manage it, where some days you get it wrong, miserably wrong, and you have a miserable day. Other days you get it just so, and you may have a good day. All right, take care. Have a wonderful day.